Hey Cupcakes! This is Mushroom and welcome back to Ark Survival Ascended. Today, we are going to go through some of the top PvP tips you need to know to survive the Arks. This is going to be useful for all of the PC players who have already had a taste of ASA, as well as for all of you console players that are just waiting for your chance. As usual, if you have some that I missed, toss them down in the comments below to help out your fellow survivors. So let's get into it with the foundation of every PvP base, turrets. Turrets are absolutely necessary for base defense, from turret towers to turret chandeliers, and PvP survivors have spent years perfecting their base builds. Ark Survival Ascended has brought its own host of interesting changes that have shaken up the PvP meta, which includes changes to the placement of turrets. Turrets are now able to be placed sideways and upside down on walls and ceilings. They are no longer catwalks, so this will change the way bases are built. I personally see hanging turrets as much more effective than in Ark Survival Evolved. So when you're loading onto your PvP server and making your base for the first time, make sure to use this new mechanic, as it's going to revolutionize the way that you make your bases. Ark Survival Ascended PvP tip number 2 is another building tip. For all of my console survivors and PC players who maybe haven't spent a significant amount of time building, you may have noticed that hatch frames have changed. Hatch frames have been renamed as cellar doors, and visually, they look quite good. And it has been a cool change for PvE building. However, turrets cannot be placed on cellar doors. Catwalks have also been taken out of the game, which are two of the main structures to make death walls. Thankfully, Wildcard has implemented a new game-changing mechanic to offset this change. Pillars can now be turned on their sides, so when used properly, they can be used in the exact same way as catwalks. And 4 pillars can actually be turned on their side to form a square, which is the new version of a hatch frame. Pillars and the ability to hang turrets sideways and upside down will definitely make it easier to make the best out of your space to defend your base. Our next tip is another very important tip for how you survivors build your bases. Our third tip involves vaults. Since Ark Survival Evolved, survivors have stored our very best loot in vaults, and even use them as additional defense on walls as they are way more expensive to destroy, taking longer as well. Throughout Ark Survival Evolved, when a foundation with a vault would get destroyed, the vault would simply drop to the ground. However, in Ark Survival Ascended, this is no longer the case, as vaults will now be destroyed if they lose their foundation support. This change is going to make it significantly easier to destroy vaults. So, to ensure your loot is as secure as possible, you must put them on a foundation, then at least try to make it a metal foundation. The fourth PvP tip is not actually around building, but it will help your game perform the best it possibly can. In your tab command bar, you have some different options that affect the scene around you. If you enter in volumetric fog and then 0, it turns off the clouds, and this will help with performance. Another tip in this command bar is to turn off the appearance of water. I personally find this a bit more of an exploit than a tip, but it is something other players can use to find your undersea caches. So I really recommend only using a small storage box to store your loot, as it is the least noticeable if someone uses this exploit. I definitely do not recommend this, but you want to make sure that your loot is as safe as possible for other survivors that do. This command bar can also be used to disable foliage, so take extra care when hiding your loot on land as well. Always try to use a small storage box whenever possible. And remember, real survivors can track down loot without using exploits. Our fifth tip is extremely important, especially after the changes with vaults. The most vulnerable your base will ever be in Ark is when you are offline to eat, sleep, or sometimes touch grass, as some of us need to do, me included. The difference between logging in to find your base gone versus partially destroyed is building your defenses in a way that most effectively wastes your assailants' time and resources. There are many ways of doing this outside of building death walls, though I do recommend building them if you're able to build and maintain them. Some of these ways are easy, such as honeycombing your base. But one very easy way even a small tribe or solo tribe can help protect their base better is by layering your foundations. You are able to place a wall on your foundations as well as fence foundations. Doing this would mean an enemy would have to destroy the walls before getting to your foundations, which will buy you precious time to log back in and fight back, especially if your assailant does not expect this and needs to go back to base to get more supplies. This will take more of your time and resources, but your base defense is one of the most crucial parts of survival, so I consider it to be the best use of your resources. One last bonus tip that will be helpful to our console friends who have not yet had the chance to play Ark Survival Ascended is for raiding. A huge tactic in Ark Survival Evolved was to use a projectile to destroy a tribe's electrical wires and box to turn off the power to turrets. Now, electricity is wireless, like water, so these cords do not exist. It is now going to be much harder to find the generator, so be sure to listen for the powered up sound it makes whenever you can. The closer you get to it, the louder it is. Do you have other PvP tips that you can share to help your fellow survivors conquer the Arks? Drop them in the comments below. And if you guys have listened to the end of this video, thank you so much for your support. You guys are the reason why I make these videos. If you guys like this content, like and subscribe to join the mushroom party. This is Mushroom. Until next time, stay fresh, cupcakes!